Oh boy, so I've been really excited for this film for a while now. I mean, what's not to love from this trailer? It's weird, the cast looks fantastic, and John Malkovich has officially lost his marbles. So I was really looking forward to this film. The movie follows a young journalist who has been invited to an exclusive album listening event hosted by a pop icon who's been quiet for 30 years. But as soon as she gets there, she realizes that everything feels bizarre and off, so immediately you go, oh, so it's doing the Menu, the Midsommar or Knives Out thing. There's absolutely nothing wrong with any of these movies. In fact, I think they're great, usually involving eccentric, memorable characters, some nasty deaths involved, great performances since these movies usually involve A-list actors, and these movies tend to have some form of commentary on themes that for the most part are easily digestible. These are usually movies that we talk about with others because of how entertaining or strange they are. So like I said before, there's absolutely nothing wrong with these films. The problem is that because of how, I guess you could say, formulaic they are, these movies that follow this pattern stick out more, and there's just only so many ways that you can use this same style before it just gets exhausting. In Opus, we follow Ariel, played by Ayo Edebiri, who's a journalist, who is capital S smart and has something to say but keeps getting trampled by her superiors, and she's just trying to get that one breakthrough opportunity. Fortunately, she's invited to this what seems like once-in-a-lifetime event. The others on the trip include Juliette Lewis, Murray Bartlett, who play obnoxious superficial media folk and completely lean into the weird nature of the event, but unlike them, Ariel is much more aware of how culty this all is, and undoubtedly the standout performance is Alfred Moretti, played by John Malkovich, who is the host of the event, accompanied along with all of his followers. And immediately we start seeing the trail of strange behavior, weird sex things, disgusting eating traditions, people go missing. Sound familiar? It's derivative of so many other films, and while there's absolutely nothing wrong with showing other work that you love some reverence, the movie itself struggles to find an identity for itself. I mean, literally the title card is in the same text style as Pearl. It spends too much time imitating and not enough time creating its own name. Spend the time to really let us get to know these characters outside of making them one-note characters, especially Ariel, because she feels so bland and one-dimensional. And I didn't like the exposition dump earlier in the film about Ariel, where her friend basically just calls her average because she's not damaged enough or rich and powerful enough to be considered interesting. Like, dude, how is that helping her? She clearly has proven that she has interesting things to say, it's just that the company leeches off of her brain, but that's just bad advice as a friend. However, that doesn't change the fact that we really don't get any information about who she is as a person, which does make Ariel feel empty as a character. And that's not Ayo Edebiri's fault. Somehow she made this character look so much better than what she should have been. She just scraped up everything she could have from the underwritten character to make Ariel get more credit than she deserved. Consider how Danny from Midsommar, before the title drop even happens, we get not only enough about who she is, but also we get enough of a basis to be able to see her progress her arc through the rest of the film. Or Margot from The Menu, where we still get bits of her personally throughout the runtime, and how it slowly weaves the theme of the film with how regular she is from the rest of the cast. Both of the characters had enough texture and background details to let us engross ourselves into the narrative outside of the satire of the film. These could be real people, not just walking allegories. And that's ultimately one of the biggest flaws of Opus. What some people might say about The Menu and Midsommar having that it's being weird for weird's sake quality, well, that's this movie. It's like a perfect example of what it's like when a person is just trying to make something so bizarre and so strange that when you're talking about the movie, you're talking about how strange and bizarre it is, not because of the actual plot or message of the movie. It's not all bad. In terms of horror, the scares were honestly fine. I'm biased, so the best one was easily the beanbag scare because it reminded me so much of Audition. And if you've seen it, you know what scene I'm talking about. I do also like the bits of the hidden horror, like there's an emphasis on hands in this film with all the people having the same scars on their hands. And then with one gnarly scene of opening shells, it tells us everything we need to know about how they all got those same scars. It was well done. Like I said before, John Malkovich is so good. He plays the renegade with such an overzealous attitude, and to his credit, you buy justify how ridiculous he is, and it makes you uncomfortable enough. He kinda oddly reminds me of Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka with how strange he is. He was such a delight to watch. He stole the show anytime he was on screen. He just knows how to crank up the weirdness despite this already being such a weird film. Honestly, he was the only unpredictable piece of this entire film. You really couldn't guess what he was gonna do next, and it stands out so much more in a movie where literally everything else is so predictable. He really was just the most interesting part of the movie without a doubt. Ayo Debris delivers such a great performance. It's just a shame that this is like her first real leading role, but she's just so likable in anything that she appears in, and even in this you could tell that she definitely has what it takes to lead a film. So I don't see this harming her potential at getting another swing at a leading role in the future, by no means. Both John and Ayo do great here, especially in the third act. Ayo's face acting when she's flipping between anger and fear, and just the way she's able to express everything you need to know with just her face, it's really good stuff, especially since this is a darker side of her that we really hadn't gotten to see before. And this film has some good unironic jokes, like there's a scene where Ariel's being followed by Amber Midthunder's character, and I noticed that she was wearing boots while Ariel was wearing sneakers. You ain't keeping up in those boots. There's also a neat moment early on where when the bus is leaving, you can see the license plate says "clap for me," and I thought that was a cute touch. But probably the funniest scene in the entire movie was shortly after Ariel and Moretti left the shell opening hut. She kinda like breaks the fourth wall, and she basically says, "What's the point of all this?" And literally that's what I was thinking by that point in the movie. I do though want to give credit to the film, because usually by the third act in movies, there's enough reasons for the main character to want to leave, so the movie forces the lead to have to explain themselves in spite of the fact that the cast will not believe her even if all the evidence is in her favor. But here, Ariel just feels uncomfortable and wants to leave, and doesn't feel like she needs to explain herself, and that's good stuff for sure. But I don't know, there's a message here about manipulation and fandom, but the rest of it just doesn't engross you enough for the message to feel compelling enough, and it's not subtle at all. Moretti literally says if it's scandalous enough, they'll want to talk about it. Like I said before, it literally just shows you weird stuff because it knows that that's what'll get you to talk about it, and in that regard, it doesn't feel earnest. Especially with the heavy-handed reveal by the end, which is the movie's way of saying we didn't get to explore these ideas throughout the runtime just because. Here's what we actually want to say, just crammed into the last literal 5 minutes. And you can tell that the director had something to say, but with how the final product plays out, you can get that same message told in much better ways in all of the other movies that this movie is derivative from, because Opus just isn't doing anything better than any of those movies. At the end of the day, I'm happy that this indie movie can still feel like a somewhat complete narrative, and there's much worse movies out there. It's just that a watered down version of a movie we've all seen before can make this movie feel so manufactured and just disingenuous, since all the previously mentioned films that Opus took inspiration from felt so much richer and deeper than a surface level story such as this one. And the most unfortunate part about it is that Marc Anthony Green had the personal experience to be able to make this feel like a personalized story, but it just wasn't meant to be. This is a directorial debut by Marc Anthony Green, so I'm not gonna say that I'm not gonna see his next movies, because I likely will, because the intention was certainly there, but this one just didn't work for me. But that's it for me. I'd appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe, and sincerely yours, Anthony.